Alright, here we go. The second game of Seagentis versus SK Telecom. Seagentis is one up, or actually one down, versus SKT. SKT convincingly won the game through a lane swap. If you haven't seen it, I've obviously went through that game as well. So this game, we're gonna jump right into it. The question of fluidity, I want to maintain fluidness because people have low attention spans, and so do I. In 2015 is very normal, so let's jump into it. You can see on CJ's side we have two top lane bans in the shape of Maokai, Rumble, and Diani. They went for the Rek'Sai first pick, and Rek'Sai Gragas have been the priority kind of junglers in Korea because there's not much in Italy and they don't like it that much. So it's very similar to Europe as well. Priority on Rek'Sai and priority on Gragas since it's 5.12. On the other side, though, we see the Kalista, the Rise, and the Kog'Maw. So the Kalista Rise, once again, is the standard bans that people do on red side because 5.12 they were ridiculously broken, and the trades are not working out simply because Rise is just so much stronger than the Kalista, so you don't want to do that trade, and you can't really ban only one. So the trade-off is something people don't do that much. And also, of course, the Kog'Maw ban, something that SKT struggled with against KT, and CJ play a lot of Kog'Maw. We see though something I dislike is the priority on Gragas and the Gnar right away. So the Gragas doesn't have to be picked, they could have waited, but then again maybe they don't want to reveal things, but the Gnar already reveals a lot of what they want to do. Sure, there's a lot of top lane bans in the shape of Maokai and Rumble. I feel like Marin has still a wide enough champion pool to kind of wait. Maybe if they want to prioritize something else, I feel like right now in the current meta, the Fizz is the stronger version of Gnar, like better team fighting, better potential of snowballing a matchup, while Gnar is very, very weak early game simply because he can't do camps efficiently. Sure, you can do the dual jungle thing, but I don't like it that much. Gnar though has some proficiency in the fact that in the way Korea lane swap is the fact that like if he lanes with a support, he can do a lot more than some of the other top laners, but still I don't think that's too relevant to say or to mention. I did it anyway. And you see on the other side CJ picking up the Azir. They know they have to blind pick mid, so why not just pick the Azir early on. Azir has a decent matchup into Victor, and that is like the go-to champion for SK Telecom when it comes to playing against an Azir. And also the Braum pickup, just as the last game, the blind pick Braum, which serves them right simply because they kind of, at this point you can almost assume SK Telecom are going to kind of pick Alistar, so that matchup is going to be evened out, and we have two strong champions that have good scaling into the game and can do a lot in a lane swap scenario. So there's that, and SK Telecom, they respond with the Vayne and the Victor. So here's where I'm confused, right? I'm just gonna double check just in case they managed to swap if I said anything. Okay, they didn't swap, so the Victor was last pick. My bad. It doesn't change a lot because like the Vayne is where I'm confused. The Vayne is what confuses me very, very much here. So they could have picked the Victor already in the previous rotation, which could have let them pick like the Vayne later on. Even though I think Vayne is good against Sivir and Shen, what Seagentis picked, I still feel like the Vayne does not have a place in this particular game. Like against an Azir, it's very hard already to do anything at all, and since they want to round off the composition with the Victor, I feel like the Corki makes more sense here. They have physical damage from the Gnar. I think the Corki provides them with some needed range with the rockets, and I think generally would do better in this lane matchup bottom. So it's very confusing to me why they pick Vayne, but of course Seagentis choose to pick Sivir and Shen into it, which in a sense it's like Shen does good against Gnar early game, and that is where you want to kind of snowball the game off of, because if you snowball the Shen lane, you can kind of, it's very easy to transition the pressure from Shen onto other lanes simply because of the double globals. So that's very important to notice. And if we just take a look at the broad perspective of both compositions, I feel like Seagentis They have the stronger lane up top. They have the stronger early game jungle, so that's very important to pay attention to. Even though I think Gragas is really, really strong, but it's more about just like the first base, because Rek'Sai is very healthy after a full clear, and Gragas is not. After the nerfs in 5.12, I think they nerfed his health regen and also his rages of his body slam. And with those changes, like Rek'Sai is very healthy in the jungle, but then again, teams tend to do this double jungle route where they take two camps with a top laner to ensure that the jungler has a lot of HP. So maybe it's not that relevant as I try to make it out to be. And of course, the Victor last pick. I feel like SK Telecom, their win condition is try to get the lane, the kind of 1-3-1 going, where they clear the waves with Victor in mid, which could be decent. The disengage of Alistar Gragas, very hard for CGentus to kind of grab onto someone, but I feel they just need to get past the early game without getting too much damage. Once again, they really, really want the lane swap because they want to get the Vayne in the 1v1 once again against Shen, and I feel like the lane swap is going to be very, like, it's going to determine how the game is going to go. So this game I'm going to do something different. Like the previous game, I pre-recorded, like with I pre-watched it and I checked points, and with that in mind, it's like this is going to be like something that I just go through, and I want you guys to tell me which one you prefer. So I'm going to jump into the game. We've talked about both compositions. CGentus have a stronger early game. I think they have a stronger team fight as well, because CGentus has the advantage of range, so SK Telecom has to engage, and their engage is not that good into what CGentus has put on the board, and that's going to provide them a lot of issues, because Az is going to be able to actually poke against the red side team, SKT here, and SKT are the ones that have to kind of force an engage, and Gnar is not the optimal champion to kind of get in and get engaged. Sure, they have the Gragas ultimate, and they have Gragas flash engages and Alistar flash engages, but I don't feel like it's too reliable against the champions that CGentus have presented. And with that in mind, I feel like CGentus, if they get the non-lane swap going, they can actually kind of snowball the game off of that, because I feel they're stronger in both sides of the map. So the lane swap is very, very key, and the question is if Shen can get ahead of the Gnar or not. So let's jump into the game. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. Very important to notice this level 1. We see CGentus doing this kind of similar thing, but the biggest difference here is what we notice right away is Azir actually wards mid lane. I think CGentus instantly realized the previous game they were severely punished by the fact that they did not actually put a ward in mid. So this time around, you can see SKT are just going for the kind of counter play, counter wards to just ward up. Not going too deep though, just for the red. I kind of don't like it, because it puts them in a scenario where it's very easy to set up the proper lanes for CGentus, because they don't go for the deep wards, only placing 2 wards here, one on the red and one on the bottom sides. Sure, they have only 3 wards, but 3 wards should be enough to kind of ward up every entrance. So you see this kind of a line of wards right here from CJ. So they will see the bot lane of SKT no matter where they want to go, and it's kind of easy for them to set up the lanes that they want, which is very, very key in this scenario. That's why I kind of dislike SKT's start here. They got the good start in the previous game because of the lack of the ward of mid, but not too much invested into getting the lanes, like the lane swap here. I feel like SKT's mindset is probably the fact that Vayne, Alistar does fine into Sivir and Braum. It's kind of an even matchup. And the question is, how hard can CG kind of get the Shen going? Gonna fast forward where you see, gonna battle a bit around. CGentus is going for the invade. Gragas is going to obviously mirror this, which will put pressure on 2 lanes, while Rek'Sai is in the red side of the jungle. Marin, of course, as I mentioned before, Shen is very strong into the Gnar early on. Gnar has to get a couple of items, maybe a Black Cleaver, maybe a Frozen Mallet, maybe like some MR to do well against the Shen. Shen has very, very strong base stats. That's usually the case of any champion with global. They have really high base stats, and they have really, really good kind of early game abilities like the QWE, while they scale down very, very hard simply because of the ultimate. basically like they get outscaled by most things in 5v5, so they have to make use of the global in the early game. So this was expected, that the Shen kind of wins heavily against Gnar early on. But this gank, I think Faker kind of misplays here. He should play more to the right side. He knows the fact that the Rek'Sai is in the red side jungle. Alistar spotted them earlier, and Faker should not have to burn both his summoners in this scenario, which is very important because the matchup Azir Victor, it can be good for Victor if he can actually not, like, he cannot do any major mistakes because it's very, very punishing. If you actually do a mistake, then you can kind of, like, if you burn your flash, then it's so easy to set up kills with the Azir and the wall and the knockoff, you know, the insect, etc., you know. So continue on. I don't think Faker should be like burning summoners on this gank because he knows Rek'Sai is on the left side of the jungle, Gragas is on the right side of the jungle. He should play to that side. So right here, after the Marin did the port trade, he's just pushing this wave out and going for the base. That is one of the weaknesses of Shen. He's very, very bad at pushing. So you can kind of push him in and get a good base off, and Shen cannot really shove you into the tower without having the Sunfire Cape item. So that's this is a good base from Marin. I'm going to increase the speed of the clip to 1.5. Alright. Bengi spotted on the top side. He knows Rek'Sai is bottom side. Will go for the deep ward. So this is a really good play from Bengi. He's just going for a deep ward because, you know, Rek'Sai showed bottom. And that is also like a way to provide a lot of team contribution. Because now when Rek'Sai shows on this ward, he needs to do his jungle camps on the blue side. Right now with the new jungle patch, well, not new, like the most recent, like big like jungle revamp, when they increased the cooldown, the respawn time on all the camps, it's very, very like the junglers need to kind of go back and forth on the map, so it's very predictable that Rek'Sai will be on the left side of the map, and seems like Rek'Sai is going to try to pressure the Gragas, which is the correct choice because in mid Faker is now on the back foot simply because of the previous gank, losing summoners. Rek'Sai is the stronger early game jungler, just as I said, like the global, like champions with the global, like Rek'Sai also has a global if he has tunnels, of course. He has very, very strong base stats as well. The QWE is very, very strong, and he's like really, really strong in these skirmishes. So with that in mind, like Gragas is going to be weaker, and it just makes sense that Rek'Sai is going for this. Alright, alright. So this is once again like Faker, this time he is playing to the right side, but there's not much you can do after burning a summoner like this. He's playing to the right side, he knows Rek'Sai is on the left side of the map, but there's not much more you can do. You have to kind of, like after, the initial mistake is burning the flash and the heal in the first gank that happened. So you can see that they actually burned Shen ultimate as well, the OGN zoom, the dramatic zoom, which the benefit of this though is that Marin actually managed to push out bottom into the tower. Shen lost some CS, got a kill though, but they actually got some decent damage onto the tower. So this is quite interesting. Sivir chooses to go top lane again. Really nice move from Mad Life here. If we take a look on the map, he knows that Bang and Wolf recalled, and he can safely invade this area simply because of the ward Rek'Sai put earlier, and he can place even better wards because he now has the Sightstone. This is what I love about Korea. Everyone just buys Sightstone all the time, which is, yay, you know, I love Sightstones. And SKT obviously are going to try to mirror this. You can see Wolf is on the red side jungle and going for those deep wards. Deep wards are very, very important. I've mentioned this a couple of times and I'm going to mention it again. If you have deep wards on one side, then you basically have map control over the entire map. If they're not showing on, for example, these wards as I'm highlighting with the mouse pointer, if they're not showing here, then you can assume that Rek'Sai is going to be on this side of the map, and that is the beauty of deep wards. So you see that SKT are going for a trade. They understand that they are weaker in the matchups in the lanes, which is I kind of like this trade. This is a decent trade-off. This is just mirrored, no biggie. Well, this is quite important though. Yeah, I think Coco is massively overextending. Like in the previous gang that Victor died with the Shenot, Azria actually burned Flash as well. He knows Alistar is missing on the red side of the map and should not overextend like this. He should play more to the left side and he should not try to harass the Victor under the tower. So that's Coco overextending, maybe a bit too eager to keep punishing Faker in this matchup. So it's interesting right here why it feels like I like the decision of SKT to just kind of delay them here because Gnar wants to farm up top lane, Victor is farming in mids, and they're not really committing onto this red buff. It's like in this scenario, like both teams are doing the correct decision. Like Azir, the biggest issue for CJ is the fact that Azir died in that scenario. If Azir was alive here, the mid wouldn't be pushed like this, and they wouldn't be able to kind of they would be able to take this red buff for free. So I think they're kind of just wasting time. I feel like they should base and just make use of the bot wave that Shen is creating right now instead of trying to create something in this area while Azir is dead. Gnar chooses to farm top, which is correct. Victor is pushing mid, and the SKT are just delaying them at the red buff. So right now we have 3 people that are wasting time and 2 people that are being very efficient in what they're doing. So this is a good move from SKT. I think Seagentis are kind of overstaying. Victor though has no ultimate, so maybe that is the mindset. The biggest reason I like this move where they kind of remove where SKT trade towers because they initiated the swap to Vayne bottom is they're kind of in a better position if the towers are gone because Vayne has like this long kind of chase distance to work with and Gnar is kind of the same with the repetitive boomerangs and slow. So I think with that regard, with that in mind, I think the swap is in their favor. Alright, so this gank is very scary. Like first of all, Victor is basing off mid, so Azir is going to be able to push this out and move eventually. So there's it's really hard to create any kind of advantage here, even if they win the fight. So Victor is in base and Azir is here. Gnar is in position to hit the tower, so that is maybe the thought process. Gnar is pushing in the Shen. They can say that Shen is not in good position to TP or ult bottom. There's no TP from the Gnar, he simply has a Phage. I don't think he can do much in these type of fights. And Bengi kind of dies. So right here, Victor is pushed into mid, and bottom is being pushed in. So when you have 2 waves pushing into the enemy, then you know you're in a dominant position. So we will have a trade-off, but Bengi dies for kind of no reason, and obviously doing the play on bottom side of the map where you receive the dragon as well as like an extra prize is always is going to be in their favor. But then again, it's also important to note the fact that Gnar is going to get a bunch of CS that Shen is not going to get, but eventually he went to base and he's not going to lose that much. I'm just going to slow it down for this fight. Alright, Wolf just gets smacked. Feels like SKT do have the vision to try to contest this, but I think Wolf is just getting caught here. I think he just went too early. I think the fact that SKT didn't really synchronize, I don't know if synchronize is the correct word, but didn't really go together what they tried to do here. It's like Wolf is going too soon, which kind of ruined the fight. I tried to make it complicated to sound like a genius, but it wasn't really more than that. Like Wolf just gets caught, and that kind of ruins the fight. And of course, like the Gnar with the Phage, he TP'd without basing, so it's like he's not gonna do much in these fights. He's just gonna get slaughtered, pretty much. So now he has a finished back cleaver. Maybe it would have made a difference if he actually came into the fight with that item, but he came in with the phage, and it's kind of easy to shut him down with the amount of DPS that is on CJN's side. So you see once again SKT's win condition is to try to get the 1-3-1 going. We see that Vayne is trying to move down bottom, and also Gnar is up top against the Shen, investing heavily in the fact that even giving him the red buff to even further increase the impact the Gnar has in this matchup. So I think giving up this Drake to kind of get pressure in your side waves is a legitimate kind of response. So they're kind of trading up, as I said, to trade the dragon to get pressure on the side waves. The first dragon, sure, it makes an impact. It makes like a difference, but the question is, the point I'm trying to make is that they kind of trade the Drake for pressure. So the Vayne does not manage to push out enough. I think Vayne, instead of, if they're trying to make this call, if SKT should do this call, I don't think they should be standing here and watching the cinema. This is a move that we usually do in ROC as well. It's like we just stand and look at the dragon. Well, a lot of teams kind of do that. They just look. This is like the cinema, you know. This is the front row seats, and they're just looking at the cinema of some dragon slaying movie, you know. They know they cannot contest this. Shen has ults, and they should not be wasting time. Ven should be just pushing this already. She has the vision she needs to not get caught, and she has to create some kind of a pressure, because this rotation in the mid is very, very easy for CJ to do, because Victor was also a part of the cinema watching squad. So this is like a quick rotation of CJ is where they kind of punish the fact that SKT do not do anything while they do dragon. So CJ want to be in a 1-4-1 or a 1-4. I think they're not 6 people on their team, obviously, and SKT want to be a 1-3-1. So they got a lot of damage into the mid tower. Really dislike that SKT just watch the cinema here. Alright, so this. Oh baby. Oh, that flash was beautiful actually. Very good flash. Very clutch flash. Alright, Shen ults. Okay, this was very important that Shen actually managed to get out. Like if Azri actually died within the ult, this would have been very, very bad. But he actually manages to survive. Myron obviously wants to avoid fights as much as possible at this point with the Black Cleaver, but the fact that actually Coco manages to survive long enough for the Shen to appear is actually clutch, and his flash was immaculate. Really important for this fight, because the engage was actually good from SKT's side. But as the fight progresses, you can clearly see that if it goes in CJN's favor a little bit, they're going to just roll over SKT, because SKT don't have this heavy team fight composition as CJN's do. And this is heavily swinging in CJN's favor. 2 kills in mid when you have push control and no threat in bottom because Azir is going down there, then this is like a perfect scenario for CJN's. I'm assuming they're going to show a replay of this fight. So once again, like really good engage. They caught Coco, but this flash was a saving grace. And the fact that Shen actually managed to pop. Like this was a difference of 100 HP. This was super, super close. And it kind of saves the fight. You can see these longer fights, and without Victor there's not much damage, and the flash taunt on the Vayne, there's not much damage to provide, and the DPS is just too much from CJN's. It's really hard to do anything, especially when Marin did not have Mega Gnar at the start of the fight. So at this point CJN's should be just taking over the game. They should not allow SKT to kind of be in the position where they can split push, because still Vayne can do damage against the Sivir. I'm not sure. Sivir actually kind of fed. I'm assuming she's IE already. Then I'm not too sure about how much the Vayne can do, which is scary. Like if Vayne cannot split push in 1v1 enemy AD carry, then you know you kind of screw them behind. Marin though has like a massive CS lead on Shy, so he can still split push, do well and hit Shy under the tower, but he's not going to be able to do too much, because on the other side of the map CJN's is going to be winning really, really hard. In a lot of regions, the biggest counter to Shen is usually considered to be Maokai, simply because he can push and outscales, and he's no under big threat like with the Shen, because he's strong early. And with the Maokai banned in this game, you can clearly see that even Shen, like early game, does good almost against any champion. You can see these scenarios a lot in LPL and LCK, where the Maokai gets banned and the Shen becomes a very, very high priority pick. The example I think of is one recent EDG game. I'll probably put that in the description. Kind of a dangerous position, as we said. Sygentis, driving seat, dragon spawning in 1 minute. The preparation is good from Sygentis' side. They should be pushing out mid and just group into this side of the map. Sivir seems to be wanting to push out bottom, but I think she can just group here already, so they can kind of commit into this and go kind of deep and contest the vision, because Victor is showing on the wave that Azir is creating. But now instead she's pushing out bottom, which is also fine. Someone has to eventually show here. They have 30 seconds for the dragon, so they can get the vision they want. But right now they should be at 4 in mid, contesting the mid wave, both sides of the team. You can see SKT are kind of first, but still Azir manages to push out, which is strange to me. Sure, we cannot see it because of the camera showing us contesting the blue buff. Wolf getting caught, not so good. This is something that happens in a lot of regions actually, where people try to contest vision, which in your mind it makes sense, you know, you want to contest Drake vision, you want to get some vision, but if you do not control the waves, right? I'm just gonna close my phone because it's actually annoying me. If you don't control the waves, as I mentioned, Azir pushed out mid, Victor shows. Sivir pushes out bottom, Vayne shows. They can invade this area for free. They don't need to care about anything. They just fucking step in there, and they don't need to give a shit about anything, because they know for a fact they're gonna outnumber the enemy no matter what. And with that in mind, Wolf should not be in this area at all. Vayne just showed here, Victor just showed in mid, and Wolf gets caught and dies for no reason, which is eventually going to turn into a free dragon, I assume. SKT this time, at least they're not looking at some kind of cinema, as I mentioned before. They're trying to create something, which I like. This is good. This is good. Shai should be in trouble. Marin is taking a shit ton of damage. Alright. So they're kind of making a trade-off. Azir is moving in. This is actually a good move from SKT. The fact that actually, I'm just gonna pause because so much things are happening in game. I just want to talk about this point. SKT did a really good move where they rotated into top and actually did something instead of watching like them do dragon, which is really good. And the fact that Wolf died and they actually managed to create something is also a good thing. But I just want to take a step back and just watch this like focused. I'm very curious to see how many wards Gragas has in his inventory, because it feels like if you're going to do this move, you kind of want to ward up this side, because they don't see where Azir comes from, which is like it is a massive issue here. And the Shen ulti with the combination of Azir is the second time we see this, really strong at this point, because we see the Abyssal Staff on the Azir, so he's not going to be easily bursted down, and everyone just collapses on SKT, so they kind of overextend. I was giving them credit for their move, but sure, they put Sygentis under pressure, but they got slaughtered because they overextended, had no vision in the blue bush, and didn't really pay attention to where Azir could possibly be. And without the vision, it becomes kind of scary. You just want to, like, the idea of the move is not to get the tower, is to just put Sygentis under pressure. You want to put them under pressure so they have to respond to you, back off, and they can't really pressure you. You get a free base and you can get back on the map and probably play some good vision. But in this scenario, they went on the tower, they tunnel visioned the Shen, and I felt like they overextended. They should have just simply, like, it was a good move. I'm gonna stand by that, but they just overextended, simply. I say simply a lot. But here, 2 people dead. It should be pretty much a free Baron. Okay, Shy. A bit crazy. Alright. Alright. So this is very similar to the previous game that we watched. The early game going in the favor of Sejantis this time. They got to proper lanes and they kind of controlled the game and snowballed the game in their favor. Wolf getting caught a couple of times. Victor, Faker, did not play properly, like in terms of positioning, knowing where Rek'Sai was. Did not make use of that information, which kind of saddens me because it impacts that matchup so much, not having summoners. Wolf getting caught again. I'm not sure what happened before because we were watching the replay of the fight. Just gonna fast forward a little bit. I'm just gonna speed the clip up. There we go, 1-5. Bengi dying. How did he die though? Alright, there we go. That's Bengi dying. So this is also crazy. Bengi trying to do Gromp while they have pressure on side waves. Mid is pushed in, bottom is pushed in. This is not the correct time to do Gromp. It's like one of these Pokemon items. This is not the place, you know. Professor Oak tells you this is not the place. See Gentis, it feels like SKT almost have to accept defeat. Like it might look juicy and all having Victor and Vayne in late game, but on the other side, like Sivir is really strong late game, and so is Azir, and Azir has this range advantage against both the Vayne and the Victor. So there's no like you might discuss say late game, but there's not much to be had, right? In a 5v5, they're still going to be weaker unless they manage to catch someone, and that happened in like the early game fight in mid. They actually managed to get like this good decent engage, but Coco just magically flashed away and magically survived at 100 HP, where Shen managed to get into the fight, which was kind of a key moment. Just gonna speed this through because at this point the game should be kind of done. They're just waiting for the Shen. Like it's kind of sad the Shen died for no reason, right? Because like he just taunted the Vayne, and like the Vayne still does damage to you when you kind of taunt her, right? So with that in mind, alright, Myron dying for absolutely no reason. Alright. It's like Shai died for kind of no reason. He could have had a Baron buff and he could have been pressuring top side, and I don't even think he needed to ult right now either. Faker dying. Oop. It is just the gold disadvantage and the Baron disadvantage is just too much at this point. So to sum this game up once again, I feel like SKT invested too heavily in to like the Vayne. I think it was very unnecessary to pick. I think that they could have been fine with the Corki, and they would have had a lane to play around in terms of pressure with the Gragas. Like it's important when you do your pick and ban that you make sure that you have a lane that you can actually gank, pressure, and ward up deep simply by being the lane that pushes. Vayne is never going to be the lane that pushes. She can be fine in terms of farming, but she's never going to be the lane that pushes. And then the Shen beats Gnar early on, so there's so much room for Sejantis to kind of create kind of pressure everywhere, especially when they have the weaker jungle matchup as well. Gragas scales better than Rek'Sai, but Rek'Sai just does better early game, so that was already like some kind of a danger. And with that in mind, if SKT actually managed to get the lane swap going, then it kind of made more sense, but this time Sejantis kind of just played it just really well, and they kind of just read what SKT tried to do. And SKT did not go for the deep wars in the level 1 strategy that Sejantis showed, which they got punished for, and Sejantis obviously got the correct lanes, and the fight in mid kind of summed it up. So I'm just gonna speed this through once again. Third dragon, no biggie. It's a waste of time to do this at this point, I think. Let's just view this. Alright. Flash is being burnt. Inhibitor should spawn anytime soon. Actually, Coco dying. Let's take a look. Bang. Doing some double lift work. Alright. There's still super creeps in bottom lane. This should be a done deal. They cannot really contest this. You see, like with the pressure they had earlier, like while they were pushing all waves into the enemy base, they can easily ward up and prepare the Baron very easily, and this game should be a done deal. That's why I love Korea and LPL so much. It is very, very... The early game is so important, and the picks are so important. In 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 NA and EU, you sometimes have these really like these clown fiesta games where doesn't matter what composition or what how far ahead you are in the early game, you just there might be a chance of enemy screwing up so badly that you take home the game, right? And it's just kind of sad sometimes. In Korea, we have CGN and SKT, good teams, very high quality teams, high ranked teams. SKT obviously being first. You have these quality games where early game and everything that happens actually has impact. The early game, things happened as I mentioned before, and you can see the kind of scars of what happened coming into like continuing into the game because these teams play on their advantages and they play around their disadvantages. It might be like less entertaining than like these 5v5 fights where ace all over the place, you know, than like in EU region sometime or North America. But to me, this is that like the higher quality of games. So I'm just gonna fast forward this. I think this should be a done deal. I'm just gonna take a look at my phone. I'm just gonna end the recording when it's done. I'm just gonna take a sip from a different beverage. That's good. Come on, CGN, you should be able to finish this already. 2 barons. Alright, 2 inhibs. It should be done. Yeah. Maybe one final battle. Alright. Ooh, Coco. Filthy Coco. The gold disparity is too much. Even like he gets a sick engage off, so like even with even gold, they would have won this fight. It was actually a beautiful engage. But that sums up the game. Once again, the early game having a lot of impact. SKT being very greedy with their lane picks, kind of relying that they could get the lane swap once again, which I disliked. CGNs adapted very well from the previous game and kind of repaired the mistake they did in the previous one where they kind of didn't place any vision in mid, which was very good. And I hope that summed up the game. If you guys prefer this one, like I did it in 2 different styles, these 2 reviews. I don't know if you guys noticed any difference, but hopefully you did, and you guys can give me some feedback. Hit me up anywhere, YouTube comments, Twitter, AskFM. Call my phone if you have my number. Actually, do not call my phone. Don't do it. So with that in mind, thank you very much. I'll see you in the 3rd game. Peace.